Callaghan told them at their Labour Party conference. The Lord Chancellor was probably there. We used to think that you could spend your way out of a recession and increase employment by cutting taxes and boosting government spending. I have to tell you in all candour that option no longer exists. And if the candour of the last unelected Labour Prime Minister won't do, listen to what the current unelected Labour Prime Minister used to say. We have learnt from past mistakes that you cannot spend your way out of a recession. Well, it turns out he's forgotten past mistakes and now he is condemned to repeat them. Mr. Speaker, the Chancellor could have taken a different path today. The path of radical monetary action and responsible fiscal policy. That is the right route out of a recession. Instead of boasting about the bank rescue abroad.
Mr. Campbell, try and break the habit of a lifetime and try and be quiet. And Mr. Well, man, Mr. Rowan, you're not so good either. You're not so good. I've seen you. Try and be quiet.
Labour MPs Ronnie Campbell and Chris Rowan being told off.
Clyde Valley is very excited because he's got his U-turn on the vehicle excise duty increase, which he's been campaigning for so long.
There's Ronnie Campbell.
Unfortunately, it's coming down the track. Now, instead of boasting about his bank rescue abroad, he could have made sure he was rescuing the real economy at home with that rescue. He should have got credit moving through the veins of the economy by telling us he was directly insuring business lending, so small businesses are kept going, instead of storing up tax rises for them in the future. He could have helped the private sector get back on its feet with properly funded help on tax bills and employment cuts, instead of piling on them crippling debts and national insurance bills that will take ages to pay off. Instead of yet another phony efficiency review, while the public sector waste runs rampant, he could have brought proper restraint and independent oversight to the way that public money is spent. He could have got a grip on government spending so that in future the state lives within the country's means. That is what we would do, and he would not. Instead, he offers temporary tax giveaways paid for by a lifetime of tax rises for the British people. The national debt doubled and the future mortgage to bail out the mistakes of the past. This is exactly the road Britain is now on with this Prime Minister and this reckless budget. Far from being an action plan, it represents the greatest failure of public policy for a generation. It will make the recession worse because it will make the recovery more difficult. Mr. Speaker, if Dennis Healey had to announce these figures, he wouldn't have turned around at the airport. He would have kept going. But he didn't. Mr. Speaker, when the Chancellor rises to reply, let him answer just these three straight questions. First, does he accept the national debt will now double to £1 trillion? Second, does he have an explanation for why Britain is forecast to have the worst recession of any major economy? And will he confirm that families will be worse off because the tax cuts he announces are temporary while the larger tax rises are permanent? I know he will not want to answer these questions, but the choice of the next election could not be clearer. A record borrowing binge. A record borrowing binge and a lifetime of tax rises under Labour. Or fiscal sanity and lower taxes than last under the Conservatives.
And we're leaving the House of Commons now as George Osborne sits down. The Shadow Chancellor